Good day, everyone. I am Denise Watts, and as many of you know, reading is so important that we have deemed it as our district's North Star. So today, to highlight the importance of reading, I get to do one of my favorite things, and that is read to you all. Now, I'm not alone today in my reading. I have actually brought with me some friends. And so as a part of the story that I'm going to read today, I want to introduce you to Rick and the Rock and Roll Band. These are all of my friends and Rick's friends, and we're going to learn more about my rock friends when I read to you today the book Ricky the Rock That Couldn't Roll. So I am super excited to dig in to see what is going on with Ricky and why he could not roll. Over the lake and out past the bay was a green grassy hill where the rocks came to play. They would race to the top to take in the view, then roll their way down the way rocks do. There was Kip, Pip, Chester, and Marvin the boulder. Ignatius played too, though he was much older. And a group called the Pebbles never ever sat still, zigzagging their way up and down the hill. Kai was a meteorite and not from this planet, and Maya was lava, but taken for granted. Stu was the smart one, and Parker was the clown. And grumpy old Ebert rolled round with a frown. Gabby was sassy, and Lizzie had flair. Emma was giggly, and Hud had black hair. But the one trait that seemed to be shared by all of them was that every rock was shaped like a ball. And because they were round, they could easily roll through the grass, past the lake, and up over the knoll. Except for poor Ricky. Ricky, who just quietly sat. You see, Rocky couldn't roll because one side of Ricky was flat. His friends didn't get it. Come on, they would call out. So Ricky tried and tried, but replied, I'm sorry, I can't. But the rocks were determined. They were sure they could solve Ricky's flat-sided problem and help him revolve. So Marvin the boulder, with his impressive physique, carried Rick all the way to the hill's grassy peak. Then he pushed him downhill, yelling, keep rolling, kid. But Ricky didn't roll. He just kind of slid. Well, the rocks weren't done, not by a mile. Surely this next try would get Ricky to smile. They stuck rubber balls all over Rick, using big gobs of glue to get them to stick. They were so proud of themselves. This will work, they announced, but Ricky still didn't roll. Now he just sort of bounced. Well, they pushed and they pulled, trying every which way to get Rick to roll. But by the end of the day, nothing had worked, just like Rick expected. And he ended up feeling depressed and dejected. It's no use, Ricky sighed. There just isn't a way. So I'll just sit off to the side, and I guess I'll watch you all play. But his friends wouldn't quit. We're here for you, brother, and we'll get you to roll one way or another. So they pounded, and they pondered, and they thought, each straining his brain till they looked up and saw it had started to rain. And that's when it hit that smart stone named Stu. "Eureka!" he shouted. "I know just what to do." He explained to them how they would get Rick to tumble. "My plan is pure genius." Stu wasn't too humble. Let's see what kind of plan Stu came up with. So they carried our hero down the road about a mile to the lake where they gathered up mud they could pile. On the flat side of Rick, creating a mound that they shaped, smoothed, and sculpted until it was round. Then after the rain, with the sun in the sky, they left him to bake till the mud was all dry. They gathered up vines and one colorful feather that they wrapped all around Rick to keep him together. When the last knot was tied and the work was all done, the only step left was for Rick to have some fun. They stood back and watched, feeling nervous and tense, as Rick breathed in deep with increasing suspense. He moved slowly at first, testing out his new mold, and then, for the first time ever, Ricky the Rock rolled. So Bria, the ladybug, who'd been there from the start, felt a surge of joy swell up in her heart. She thought, as she watched her friends play on the hill, that there's always a way if there's always a will. And she said to herself as Ricky rolled down the slope, "When you're surrounded by love, you'll always have hope." And that is the end of Ricky the Rock That Couldn't Roll. Thank you for letting me read to you today.